Live from the No Panic Zone, I'm Steve DeRye, I'm America's voice. I'm here to make America better every day, working hard, rolling up my sleeves, putting America first. I hope you're doing the same thing. Here are three big things you need to know right now. Number one, big news for those that are pursuing the assassination of JFK. More than 13,000 new documents have been dumped, but anything to learn? We'll see. Number two, a wild and bitter cold front is coming for millions of us right now. It's coming. In fact, it's so ugly that records set back in the early 1980s from Montana to Michigan to the East Coast could fall in the next few days. Yeah, it's the real thing. And number three, it's Free for All Friday. And that means I'm going to start from the beginning and move through comments and stories that are going on with no particular order and weighing in on what they all mean to me, to you, to all of us. Is anyone looking out for the folks? Well, I'm trying. I'm looking out for the folks. I'm going to give you my feedback on each one of these items to try to get us there. Does that make sense? All right, we're going to start with number one. The mainstream corporate media finally getting a clue. The clue shows we're getting screwed by an unprecedented invasion at the southern border. This actually was on MSNBC. Listen.
And officials on the other side of the border, who we've also been speaking with, Jose, they, in El Paso, they say they just do not have the resources to deal with this many migrants. And they say it's unsustainable, and they expected the situation here to get even worse with a bigger migrant influx potentially next week as Title 42 is lifted. And Jose, as you can see, I'm still walking here. This line is still not over. But, you know, we have seen them. What happens here at the front of the line is that every few minutes, actually, every half hour, an hour or so, it depends when they let those 10 to 15 migrants in, buses are brought here to then take them to a processing center. And again, Jose, those processing center, U.S. officials say, are already strapped for resources. And one of the shelters here, you know, they just don't have the space for them. Some of these migrants are having to sleep outside in the freezing cold overnight. Jose?
Outside in the freezing cold
tragic
overnight.
Humanitarian crisis.
When they say outside overnight, they mean in Texas, not in really cold places. But the homeless population of different places has to be taking a hit from this. How could it not? When Title 42 comes to an end on the 21st of December, which is a few days from now, the expectation is that 14,000 illegals a day, maybe more. I don't know how they made the estimate, but here's where they got 14,000 a day. We had 3 days already this month where they were at about 10,000 coming over the border illegally. Why wouldn't it be 20,000? The fact is, it could be. At 14,000 people a day, that's more than 5 million people a year, and that doesn't count the gotaways. Those are the ones that made no contact with Border Patrol. Think about that. We've already had about 6 million come in under Biden's watch. Could be higher now, but about 6 million. Add another 5 million in the coming year. Right, there's 11. Another 5 million in the following year. Now you're at 16, plus the gotaways. You're at what? 17, 18, 19 million people in a four-year span that don't have jobs, don't have a place to live, by and large, don't have an income source, by and large. So who gets to pick up the tab? You and I do. This is not sustainable. This is a disaster, and this is by design. Why would you do this? Why would you destroy the country with 19 million new illegals? There are conversations inside the White House to repeal the asylum laws and the way it's being done, to send people back. We'll see if it works. Right now, it's a disaster. Multiply it a couple of times and you get to where we are. Because that many people being dispersed across the country, they will end up on your street. They will be in your neighborhood. There's no place else for them to go. There's only so many places they can go. Think about it. It's a disaster. All right. Number two, Stacey Abrams, a repeat loser, says she's willing to run for office again. I guess she never got the memo. Listen.
Okay, so now that the midterms are over, I know you probably get asked this a lot, but we have to ask, what's next for you? How likely are you to run for office again?
I may run again, but I've always said that it's not about the title, it's about the work.
Yeah, it's about the work. Well, did she change Georgia? Some would argue she did. She didn't get elected, but 2 Democrat senators did. In a state that should not have any Democrat senators, really. Republicans won statewide in the midterms. It's a remarkable thing, really. You know, you look at how fragile the Senate is, and I mean that because Johnny Isaacson was the senator from Georgia who 4.5 years ago, diagnosed with cancer and resigned his seat. And that's what started this whole thing tumbling downhill in Georgia. One guy got sick, and it all tumbled downhill. And when the dust cleared, there were 2 Democrat senators in Georgia. And that's what happened. All right, the Senate is moving to push a TikTok ban. But of course, Karine Jean-Pierre, the most hopeless, and I say that with all the love intended, the most hopeless press secretary of my lifetime, she's awful, struggled to give an answer. Like always about TikTok, this should be very straightforward. Listen to this.
Is on TikTok. The Senate voted to ban TikTok from all government-issued phones. Let's start with that one. Does the White House have feelings on that bill?
So, as I've said before, we want to be very careful on commenting on any specific legislation at this time. So, we'd refer you to Congress on the next steps. We don't get involved in the process as we've done in the past. But look, just more broadly, there are a range of tech applications.
You know, she's just terrible. Here's the thing. She's been using the Hatch Act like 20 times recently. She's gone to the Hatch. I can't talk about it because of the Hatch Act, which is nonsense, by the way. That was, I believe the Hatch Act came in 1939. And it has 3-4 dozen different things that you cannot do as a government bureaucrat to promote a political point of view or a political party or a political candidate. None of which, by the way, talk about a president's son who has a laptop with pornographic material and damning emails about, bad business deals that could entangle the president. The Hatch Act has nothing to do with any of that. The Hatch Act has nothing to do with TikTok. I'm surprised she didn't talk about the Hatch Act right there. When she drops the Hatch Act, it's more like the Emergency Hatch Act. She just because nobody pushes back. What a good journalist in that room should do is say, well, what part of the Hatch Act would you be violating by answering a question about this? And the answer is nothing. She's just using it to escape answering. And the people in the room are too dumb, frankly, to push back and ask the real question. Well, what part of the Hatch Act would that violate, Karine? Because we don't believe it violates anything. I believe you're wrong. Challenge her. Of course, then you get kicked out and you don't get to go to the cocktail parties or hang out after work on Friday. So there's that problem. Right, there's that problem. Anyhow, digging deep. Yeah, 13,000 JFK assassination files, much of it heavily redacted. People saying, well, there's a lot here. It constitutes 97% of the 5 million documents associated to the assassination in 1963. So, are we there? Are we there yet? I don't know. Killed at the age of 46, he was. Quick break on the Steve Gruber Show. Hey, good to see you Free for All Friday. We'll be back.